Well, I'm here to talk very briefly about the pro-life issue. First of all, let me say that you probably know we passed a very strong, in fact, one of the strongest in the country, pro-life bills in the last legislative session, HB 2, and it had three major components. One was that no baby can be killed after 5 months in the womb. Second was that if you are going to kill babies before they're born, you have to do it in a surgically standardized clinic, so that you have to have the same medical standards as the outpatient clinics who treat people for all kinds of other surgical procedures. And the third is, because things do go wrong during the abortion process, and that can be very harmful not just to the baby, whom it always hurts, but to the woman who is undergoing this procedure, so that in case that should happen, the doctor performing this procedure must have hospital admitting privileges within at least 30 miles, at a hospital within 30 miles of this abortion clinic. These things are very reasonable. I think we would all agree they're pretty common sense, but of course the pro-aborts don't think that. So Planned Parenthood and others have brought suit to challenge the legality, the constitutionality of that bill, at least of parts of it. Originally it was upheld, then it was overturned by a further appeal, and now it is in the federal district court. We expect a favorable ruling there. The last time that something was challenged in that court that had to do with the abortion issue, the three female judges on that court ruled in our favor. So we're expecting a good ruling there, but we don't have that yet. If it doesn't get a good ruling, it'll be on its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it may be that it's time to challenge Roe v. Wade at the highest level. We'll see. I did want to bring you up to date on that, and I'd like to tell you that there are still lots of things that we need to do legislatively in the pro-life area. From the abortion standpoint, we still have a big, fat loophole that people take advantage of, and it's called the judicial bypass. We've got a great district judge from Denton County here today, and Sherry Shipman, and Sherry was one of the judges who has come to pro-life leadership and say, please do something about this. It's not a good thing to be put in this position as a judge, and it certainly does not reflect a good pro-life environment in the state when you can basically venue shop to find a pro-abortion judge and have a minor who, by law, her parents have to be notified and give their consent for her to have an abortion. If, however, she feels that that wouldn't go well in that discussion, she can venue shop for a pro-abortion judge and can override that state law. Well, that loophole needs to be fixed. And there are some other things that we'd like to do in the pro-life movement. But dealing with the preborn is one part of it. How about the end of life? Kirby talked a little bit about what happens in England. May I tell you what happens today in Texas, USA? How many of you know that a physician can place a do not resuscitate order on a patient's file without the patient's knowledge and consent, without the family's knowledge and consent? Are you all aware of that? Did you know that if indeed you find this out and you don't want that order, the patient or the family has only 2 days' notice to go to a meeting of the ethics commission within that hospital. These ethics committees were set up by state law decades ago in order to handle situations where perhaps a patient or a family feels that a doctor is not handling something in an ethical manner. When they decide to appeal this DNR, they get all of 2 days' notice that the committee will be meeting. They probably are not allowed to bring in any expert witnesses, such as another doctor's opinion, perhaps a medical advisor, perhaps an attorney who's familiar with that situation, and they get all of 2 days' notice. They have no patient assistance provided for this process. If they ask for records, there's no timely requirement that they get them, and they are charged 50 cents a page, many places. 50 cents a page. Have you ever seen medical records on someone who's been in the hospital a long time or been ill a long time? We're talking stacks and stacks and stacks. You almost have to mortgage the house just to pay for the medical records. And if indeed the ethics committee says that the doctor is right and no further care will be provided for this patient, they have all of 10 days to arrange a transfer to another facility. 10 days. It takes a lot longer than that to find a facility with an opening that will take this patient and arrange for that transfer. Additionally, there is no requirement that hydration and nutrition, what we might call food and water, would be provided during the patient's last days. It's really a pretty sad state of affairs in the state of Texas. Last legislative session, a reform bill was introduced. And under this bill, the secret DNRs were forbidden. The patients or a surrogate for the patient, such as family, power of attorney, etc., must be notified before a DNR can be, a do not resuscitate, can be placed in a patient's file. And if they appeal this, then they have at least 7 days' notice for the committee hearing, and they may bring other people to this hearing. There is a patient liaison to be appointed to the patient and the families to help them navigate this process. It also, this bill required that the patient's records be released within 3 days and in no charge. So that was a huge improvement there. And if indeed this life-sustaining treatment that perhaps the patient and the family want, but the doctor does not want to continue for whatever reasons, instead of the 10 days to find another location, they must be given at least 21 days after this denial in order to find a transfer. And the last thing that this bill required, or one of the last things, is that you have to continue hydration and nutrition during the ending days of this patient's life, unless it's harmful to the patient. For example, if a patient is on dialysis and you give too much hydration, that causes even more problems than before. So there would be some exceptions to that. Sounds like a pretty good bill. As a matter of fact, it originally passed the Senate unanimously. And then a couple of senators got some pressure from certain constituents, and they changed their votes off the record to a no vote. It then went to the House, and it was set up for hearings in the House. Actually, I was one of the people who went and testified in favor of the bill, and there were dozens who testified against the bill because, frankly, they had been given misinformation about this bill. And during those hearings, it became pretty obvious that there were two different factions within the pro-life movement in Texas, and there were two warring factions. One group who supported this bill, as I did, another group who didn't support the bill. And the reasons they were giving were not factual. One thing that they did say was it didn't go far enough. They wanted, for example, unlimited time to find a transfer. But mostly what was put out, and I'll be very honest with you, most of what was put out was not factual information. It was exact opposite when it talked about setting up death panels, for example. Those were the ethics committees that had been in place for 20 years in the state of Texas. And what was being done was to give patients and families more power and more time and more ammunition to carry their cases forward. So it was a total misrepresentation of what that bill was. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up to you all today is that I still think we need this bill. Do you all agree that we need to have some reform in the bill, in the legislation that allows doctors to do this? I think we do. But what is it? Thank you. What I think is even more important is that we have got to stop the war in the pro-life movement in Texas. It's got to stop. I can tell you that I have talked with many legislators, and they tell me that they are pulled this direction from one group and the other direction from another group. They just as soon not do anything pro-life in the next legislative session if they're going to be pulled in all these different directions, each group claiming to be the pro-life group in Texas. Something has to happen to change that. We have to get these groups together. I don't know what the motives are in every group, but I can tell you that with some of them, it's more about fundraising than it is about saving babies and other lives like the end-of-life issues. And I think that's a shame. I know you are all pro-life that are here. You know that I'm pro-life. I would love to do anything I can to help make this war stop. I don't think there is anything that I can do. I do think that our next governor, who better be Governor Abbott, would have the best opportunity to bring the leaders of these groups together and just say, stop it. I don't want to have to tell you this again. Stop it. If you want babies saved, if you want the end-of-life issues to be handled, then stop fighting each other and let's get on the same page and let's all really be pro-life. Thank you.